Alien Earth, if you listen to some, is fixing the mistakes of the Alien movies. That there has always been an adult element to the Alien franchise, but usually it's of the invasive variety. That previously Ripley's clones were instilled with a mix of revulsion and adult yearning, whereas this time, because it's an alien trying to get with a child's brain in an adult's body, it's fine now, apparently. This isn't even my reading of the series. IGN themselves say, well, it's unknown at this time how badly the baby Xeno wants to hook up with Wendy. It may not be a surprise that some of the fans of Alien Earth simply want to have something shoved down their throat. Does that explain then the low-quality writing in the rest of the series? Did they write it for a romantasy audience that would be too busy flicking to care? Because in Alien Earth, stupidity isn't a bug, it's a feature. They've taken children's minds and put them in the most advanced robotics known to man. We're talking brain computing power far beyond anything humanly possible. These are the smartest people alive, and the most thick. At any point in time, a character can simultaneously be acting like a 3-year-old.
Go away, I'm busy!
What are you talking about? We're never busy.
Okay, I don't care. Let me in.
I know something's going on.
While also in another scene, murder a man, be completely okay with it, and have the wherewithal to hide everything.
Can't tell anybody, because if you do...
This produces a state of television which can only be described as Schrodinger's retard. Are they a 30 IQ child or a robot with the intellectual capacity to change the universe? That just depends on the situation and whatever excuse we need at that time. And they might bang an alien at a moment's notice. In this regard, it's very similar to anything written by James Gunn, where he calls it a comedy as an excuse for not being able to write any characters more intelligent than he is. They're simultaneously super intelligent and thick as pig shit. They can't decide whether childhood is a lack of experience and not knowing what to do, or having 30 IQ, let alone when they want them to be competent because they are in an android body which is more intelligent than everyone else in the universe.
I'm not an idiot.
And those excuses don't even work for the adult humans, who are also retarded. Plot irregularities range from wiping a robot's memory because remembering what happened to her in a ship with the aliens made her scared, evil, and dangerous, but then not telling anybody else that you wiped her memory. So the first thing that happens is people go into a room and tell her everything that happened, which just makes her scared, evil, and dangerous. Again.
A few adjustments, sweetheart, okay? Move the trauma. You said you were gonna have a baby.
You saw all the animals in the broken zoo?
What's wrong with me? I don't have any of that.
Or how at the end of an episode you can have a synth watching all of these evil activities going on CCTV cameras, only for the boss to go around and go, is everything okay?
Everything okay?
Affirmative.
Always hiding stuff from his boss. Is he evil? Is he betraying him? Is he working two sides as a double agent? What an episode cliffhanger. But don't worry, at the start of the very next episode, the first thing they do is he takes his boss to the laboratory where it all happened and tells him everything that he saw on the CCTV cameras.
You should be safe for now.
Okay. What do we lose?
One of the children got careless.
The fly did this?
This wasn't an accident.
So-
You need to watch the tape.
Don't worry, it's not a plot hole if the audience can't remember it. And they won't, because no one can remember this episode 30 minutes after watching it. That means we can render any cliffhanger, any lie, utterly irrelevant, instantaneously. No one will realise, and no one will care. Don't worry about that, though. You're here for the aliens, and they added more species of those, only to immediately lock them in cages so they can't do anything, yes. Most of the episodes of this TV show take place with the aliens in a lab, sealed away in cages. No getting out of those. Well, there wouldn't be if any of the people in this universe were intelligent enough to tie their own shoelaces. Because not only were scientists eating food right next to the parasitical aliens, but they didn't do the most basic of security features, such as put a top onto a sealed jar the alien is in.
How did you get out?
You must have left the top open.
I always...
Let alone seal it away on a wall, make sure it's secured, and maybe setting up some kind of audio warning system for when it inevitably failed, because this is a TV show. Even regardless of that though, they have panels set up that glow red when one of the containments is breached. Yeah, they don't look at that either though. And it's not as if they didn't know how dangerous these aliens were. In episode 1, they spoke about how capturing these aliens wiped out most of their crew. Not that you'd know that when one of the aliens escapes, then they all have to be briefed on what weapons do.
Electric, non-lethal. You see it, you pull the trigger till it hits the floor. Capture, don't kill. Clear.
Now this is the pew pew end and electricity comes out. All of this pales in comparison to when children are looking after the lab though. Why are children looking after the lab? Nobody knows. Well, in one episode, I think there was a throwaway line. They're actually parasitical organisms that breed inside humans, so only put the robots in there. This was very quickly forgotten though when they started putting them in sealed cages, and we see humans walking in and out of that lab all the time anyway, so clearly that wasn't followed. Also, even if you were only going to send these child robots into the lab, you'd at least want adults outside watching them, right? Security guards at the very least, but probably trained scientists. They could restrain people from doing things like the most stupid thing imaginable. Now, I've never worked in a clean lab that has apocalyptic level biohazard rooms, but even I, as a complete layman, know probably shouldn't go in them. Yet in Alien Earth, that's everyone's first instinct. Oh, I don't know my strength, and rips the door off this sealed room. Don't worry, it's an airlock. There's a second one on the other side. Not that that matters when the first instinct is to unlock the door and walk inside with the apocalyptic level biohazard. In later episodes, this is treated as genius by the aliens. Look, he got him closed in the door. This would be more impressive if the person that he's dealing with didn't have the IQ of a spoon. The kid doesn't just open the door and throw the food inside at record speed. He goes in ever so slowly, 90% of the way into the room, to ever so slowly lay the tray down on the floor, only to look up in the corner as if, oh, I forgot the aliens were here. Remember, robots more intelligent than anybody else in the universe. They were literally invented so the most intelligent person on Earth would have someone to talk to. I'm pretty sure you could confuse that guy by telling him to sit in the corner of a circular room, but that's the least of the show's problems.
Stop frowning. It's not awake. We're on a voyage of discovery, and I have a colonic in 30 minutes.
Either way, robot gets locked in, flying creatures come along, spew metallic burning acid on him, and kill the robot. These flying creatures can dissolve metals and minerals, because that's what they eat on their home planet. That's important for later. Sorry, not important. That's more stupidity for later. But you use the Schrodinger's excuse. Well, he was a child. Yes, he had the code to unlock the apocalyptic cages, which he probably shouldn't have been given, but he didn't have experience, he didn't have judgment, and the brain they put inside him was basically pond scum. What do you expect? If you'd put guards and adult scientists outside to consult with, this wouldn't have happened. That argument would hold up if immediately afterwards an adult scientist didn't walk in the room and the first thing he did, go into the sealed cage. Everyone's first instinct in this show is to breach lab containment and walk into the apocalyptic biohazard room. Even evolution understood that you should at least wear protective suits when you're doing this kind of thing, and they had a joke about extracting an alien out someone's ass.
I'll get the lubricant.
There's no time for lubricant. There's always time for lubricant.
Still more of an intelligent comedy than anything James Gunn could create. And of course, in this show, it's not enough for someone to be stupid. They have to be evil and stupid, which is why that human immediately gets locked in by one of the robots after he's let the aliens out into the lab. So now the entire lab is the apocalyptic level biohazard room. Then can you guess what the robot does? That's right. He walks straight back into the laboratory with all of the aliens. Because why would you do anything else? Especially after you've seen that they can melt you with their poison-eating acid. Don't worry about that though. He does manage to grab the human and pull him through an air vent. Turns out this laboratory is only guarded by a single air vent, which makes it a good job they're only keeping parasitical aliens there and not John McClane. Of course, that scene ends with him pulling up this thin metal grate over the air vent and stopping one of the flying creatures. Oh, it's a good job they didn't escape or the world might end. Except for the fact that we already know that those same flying creatures can melt metal and therefore get out of the air conditioning unit. Don't worry though, they don't. The aliens didn't think of that. They're as stupid as the people. And if you're after character depth in this show, you're not going to get any. The only depth that could be questioned in the show is how far the writers think that Wendy should have the alien down her throat. Now they are trying to add depth, or at least the illusion of it. It's mainly mystery box. They go, ooh, that guy's doing something weird. I wonder if there's more to that. There isn't. For instance, child brains in robots. Are they intelligent? Are they not? Is being a child being stupid or just having little experience? And if you put them in a robot body, do they learn really fast? Can they be taught new things super quickly? Are they basically super smart people with no experience in anything, and so they just have to be put into the situation like a laboratory to learn it and pick it up instantly? Are these intelligent adults who can be taught how to do things, or moronic children that shouldn't be around dangerous monsters? If you think this is an interesting question you could explore in an episode, I do too, but they're not going to do it. That's not what it's for. It's just another excuse for Schrodinger's retard. The other time where this comes into play is simply mystery box. A character will do something odd, you think there's more to it, and there isn't, and when you find out, it's not satisfying. We saw that before when the synth was like, ooh, no, everything's fine, despite knowing it isn't. And then immediately the next episode, resetting everything. We saw that same arc continuing again, where he helped children carrying a man with a facehugger attached to his face, and it's like, oh no, you want to go to the beach? Like, no, you don't understand. We've been talking with your enemies. We're gonna give it away to a rival organization. And he goes, I know. And you'll actually get there faster if you go out of this elevator. He's helping his enemies, and you think, oh, he must be working for them. He must be a double agent. Now, kids drag the man with the facehugger on his face to the meeting point. Halfway there, the alien bursts out of his stomach and escapes into the forest. So they have to drag basically an empty corpse to the rival faction. An empty corpse isn't good enough for them, and so they drag the kids back into the laboratory, only to find the original synth there with all his men. See, this was a rope-a-dope.
Would you mind not shooting at the thermonuclear weapons?
He wasn't disloyal, he wasn't betraying his leader, it was all part of his master plan. Let them go so they meet up with the rival faction, he can spy on that faction through their eyes, and then set up a trap for when they come back to the base to catch them. Except he didn't know any of that was going to happen when he let them go. They only come back to the laboratory because the alien escaped. If the chest burster hadn't burst, they would have escaped out of this island and the synth would have lost everything. He also captures the escaped alien off camera, magically, barely an inconvenience. The show pitches a magical solution where everything just plays into his hands as if it was a grand strategist, when actually, the only way he could have set all of that up is if he knew those events were going to happen because he'd read the script in advance. If you actually think through his steps as he did it, as far as he knew, they were just going to leave with the enemy. And he can't have them leave with the enemy because they're expensive private technology as it is. They're unique. He made a mistake at every single decision-making opportunity and then went, see, I am a genius, it all worked out in the end. That's what passes for a twist, a grand plot, a character arc. Something that he'd looked into with prior knowledge of the future. And he must have had it, because otherwise, anyone else in that situation would have made decisions to mitigate risk, something he didn't do. And you could use, oh, well, maybe he had people waiting for them. But if he did, unfortunately, you'd have to show it. Or at least had him say, no, I set up a net around the island. I could have captured you all at any time. And even then, you would have had to ask, why didn't you then? I'm willing to give shows the benefit of the doubt when it comes to minor plot holes, if the story's good, or if they're analysing some great idea, or if the actions are really good. This show doesn't have any of it. It will occasionally hit on an interesting idea, where he asks the guy, what do you want to do with your sister? And he replies, I just want to live. So he says, you've got this advanced robot that can change the universe, more intelligent than anyone else alive, reinvent technology, reinvent what we know about space itself and space travel. And you want her to watch Emmerdale, do you? Have a curry on a Thursday night, get pissed, and spend a time watching reruns of Big Brother. Are you an idiot?
You think he's going to let you take her with you? Has potential to invent faster than light travel, and you want her to be a family?
She's just a kid.
Keep telling yourself that.
There are occasionally good moments like that, and the plot has set up other ideas, like what does it mean to be human? Did we kill these children when we transferred them into robot bodies? We can do things like turn their hearing up and down, change their emotions, wipe their memories, which is what a person is at the end of the day. At will, are these people even human anymore? And yet they will occasionally mention these ideas, completely ignore them. So all you're left with is the story of the alien. It is the actions that they're doing, the plots or schemes they're making up with the synths. That's the main thrust of the show, and so I think it's open for criticism when none of it makes any sense, and the only excuse you have for that is everyone's an idiot and evil. They morphed from just idiots to idiotic and evil, probably after episode 5. Maybe before episode 5, but it's difficult to remember the show long enough for that. Doesn't leave that much of a lasting impression. Now, one of the tropes of romanticism is it doesn't describe everything very well. It comes across as really poorly written, deliberately. Because there's no description, they can project their perfect man that they like in real life onto the man in the story, and they can project themselves onto the main character. And the longer this show goes on for, and the worse it gets. Especially with its twisted morality, which has become a trope of Hollywood in recent years, as they have gone for the romantasy audience. I do begin to wonder whether the target audience for this show is people that think there's always been an adult element to the Alien franchise, and all of the events are really just an excuse to show Wendy getting with an alien. But those are just my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know down in the comments below. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe more videos like this in the future, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.